With us to discuss is Mick Mulvaney. He's the former acting chief of staff under President Trump and the former director of the Office of Management and Budget, among a number of other things. Mick, it's great to have you on. Thanks for being with me. I'm going to start right there, and that is, we have this debate all the time about whether the president can fire a Fed chair without cause. And yet we know this Humphreys executor decision is being revisited by the Supreme Court. So how much now hinges on the court? And depending on the outcome, do you think the president would actually make a move here?
Yeah, well, I think this entire discussion, Morgan, is caught up in the larger sort of debate about executive authority, the unitary theory of the president. Does the president have the right to run the executive branch? And if so, where does the Federal Reserve fall in that? I know there was some discussion within Trump world before the election, maybe going back to last summer, that they thought they had a fairly decent legal basis for removing Powell as the chairman, although they didn't think they could kick him off the board entirely. At the end of the day, though, you have to think that Powell, I think, has only got, 12 or 13 months left in his term. If Trump does try to do something, you got to think it would take at least that long to go through the courts. And the chances of Jay Powell staying in office for the pendency of that lawsuit are probably pretty high. I think that may be one of the reasons you've not seen Trump do something up to this point. It would be mooted by the fact that Powell's term would probably expire anyway before the courts would have a chance to render a final decision.
This Wall Street Journal story we saw late this afternoon, is your sense that a story like that would be a leak or potentially floated from someone in the administration to see how constituents react, including, by the way, the markets?
Oh, it's always hard to read into that. But I think your question is correct, which is how are the markets going to react? Look, even if Trump does have the authority to do it, and look, I'm count me amongst the people who said, look, the independence of the Fed has been in question for a long time. I mean, I remember when Janet Yellen was the Fed chair when I was in the House Financial Services Committee, and Republicans were pulling their hair out over her politicization of the office. So put that aside. I think if Trump were to make a dramatic move right now, legal, illegal, questionable legal, whatever, the bond markets would react very, very negatively. And I think, listen to what Trump said last week about how he decided to come to the decision on the 90-day pause for tariffs. He watched the bond markets. The federal government, Morgan, and this is the most important thing I think people continue to miss, the federal government has to refinance $9.2 trillion of debt this year. Anything that the Trump administration does to drive up interest rates in the short term, tariffs, chaos within the Federal Reserve, whatever, is going to increase the cost of that borrowing. And that, I think, is what's driving or should be driving a lot of decisions coming out of the White House. It's
such a key point. I don't think we can talk about it enough. What do you think the role is of Congress in all of this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, you go back to the Federal Reserve Act of the 1920s. Face it, I don't think Congress is going to do anything right now for a variety of reasons. Mostly they're aligned with the leader of their party, as one would expect. Democrats were aligned with Barack Obama and then Joe Biden. Republicans are aligned with Donald Trump. But even if there was a sort of an undercurrent to maybe take back some congressional authority that had been delegated to the presidency, we've heard a little chatter of that, for example, on tariffs. That means you'd not only have to pass a bill, but probably have to pass it with a veto-proof majority because the president would have to sign any legislation, and that's simply not going to happen. So the lay of the land right now, the sort of the balance of power in Washington, D.C. is not going to change with legislation. This is going to be a fight between the executive branch and the courts.
All right. And finally, you sort of touched on it a little bit before. This is not the first time in history that we have seen a president who's been very outspoken about the monetary policies coming out of the Fed. We've seen it quite a few times, actually, through history, call it over the last 100 years, that I can think of off the top of my head. That being said, is this the politicization of the Fed by the White House, as some folks are framing it, this narrative, or is this a White House that's having a political response to what they see as politics by the Fed, which you could probably point to Trump 1.0 as well as an example of that?
You know, look, I'm not sure there's much value in trying to figure out, who started the fight. Again, I could go back to I mean, the simple fact that Janet Yellen went from the supposedly independent position of Fed chair to Treasury Secretary, and one of the most political Treasury secretaries of recent memory, should sort of give you a hint that maybe the Fed chair is not as independent as everybody wants to sort of pretend. Did Powell do some things that might have helped Joe Biden towards the end of his term? Arguably. Does he like Donald Trump? Probably not. Does that all factor into it? Look, we're all people. This is sort of a human nature type of question, but that's probably not productive. The productive question is what's legal and then what's practical. I don't know the legalities, but I get that strong feeling that if Trump does anything drastic, bond yields are going to spike, and that is going to undercut not only his tariff position, but he's got to figure out a way to get his tax bill passed this summer. And if everything he's doing is jacking up the cost of borrowing, that's just going to make a tax bill even more difficult.